YouTube, what's going on? It's Monday night, May 13th, 2019. I'm going to try to breeze through these cars. I wasn't going to do this video. I got one car in the mail today. It's probably worthy of a standalone video due to its rarity, but I figured I would just, since it is a Konami, I would just showcase all of them. But we're only going to look at one individually. So, anyways, here we have a Mazda Luce rotary coupe. Here we have a Suzuki Fronti, one of the smallest cars in my collection. This is a Mazda Familia rotary coupe. This is a Toyota Soarer. Awesome car. I really want to get the Kyosho example of that. Here we have a second gen Honda Prelude. Not quite as nice as the Tomica Limited Vintage. Certainly not as nice as the Hobby Japan, although that's a third generation. But this is still a nice car. We have the first generation Mazda RX-7. I'd also like to get the Kyosho example of that car. We have a Datsun 510 Bluebird. We have a Mazda RX-5 Cosmo. One of my favorites here. I like this one a lot. We have a Toyota Corolla 11. I did wheel swap this. The tires were actually rotting off of the wheel, so I had to wheel swap it. I think it looks better anyways. There we have a Nissan Fairlady Z, Toyota Celica, Toyota 2000 GT. In my opinion, the nicest 2000 GT available in 1:64 scale. I'll take this over the Kyosho. I'm sure a lot of you will disagree with me on that, and that's fine. I just think this one looks better. I think it's got a better stance, some sexy lines, great looking car. Excellent color too. Toyota Republica, Toyota Corona, Nissan Violet. The crown jewel of the entire collection, the Toyota Starlet, and easily the most expensive of the collection until tonight. Another Celica, 1985 Toyota Celica. A Kenmary Skyline that I wheel swapped. These wheels are temporary on this car. I don't think they're a good fit for the car. So, but like the Corolla, the tires were also rotting off of this one. So, it's one of the downsides to Konami is you'll find cars like this one where you have paint that's starting to orange peel, starting to bubble. And then sometimes you'll find them with tires that are deteriorating. This is one of my favorites here. This is a first generation Toyota Celica GT. Love this car. This is another car that I like quite a bit, the Nissan Laurel. One of the larger Konami castings. Another one of my favorites, the Toyota Celica. I think this is a 1976 Toyota Celica GT. And the Toyota Crown. And then over here we have the Mazda Miata and the Toyota Sports 800. That is not a removable top. Okay, so of these cars, it's worth noting that the Miata, the 85 Celica, the 89 Celica, the 85 Prelude, I think that's an 85 Toyota Soarer. So those 5 cars come from the Cars of the 80s Konami releases, which is a different series than all the others. Even though some of them might... Actually, no, I don't think any of the other models are from the 1980s. I think that this Mazda is late 70s. I could be wrong on that, but... one of the big differences between, let's say, a regular Konami release like this Toyota Crown, you get suspension, much like you do with Tomica Limited Vintage, compared to a Cars of the 80s release where you don't get the suspension at all. So that's one of the noticeable differences. But you can see here, these 2 cars should give you a pretty good indication of the detail. They are very highly detailed. So for me, it would go Tomica Limited Vintage, most detailed. Kyosho would be second. I would put Konami third. Now, I'm not including some of the newer brands in that, like Tarmac Works or Inno64. They just don't have enough out there yet. But these are still very highly detailed. Metal body, plastic base construction. They all have rubber tires with tread. They all have prototypical wheels, unless you wheel swap them, like I've done here with this Toyota Corolla. They all have lensed head and or tail lights. And I think that about covers it. So without further ado, let's take a look at the new edition. Well, before we take a look at the new one, I'll just say that up until this point, the hardest one to find and the most valuable that I have has been the Toyota Starlet. You can get these loose for $40 to $50. You can get them sealed up in the bubble with the box upwards of $80. And that goes for both colors, the red one and the green one. The rest of these will range in price. I would say $20 to $25 on average. If you find them at auction, you can get them for less sometimes. But if you do buy it now, you're going to pay that $20 to $25 price. I can't get over how awesome this Toyota looks right here. It's really catching my eye. Well, before the video is over, we'll take a closer look at that. Anyways, so the Toyota Starlet is one of the 2 primo releases that they had. And that's from the more nostalgic era of cars. There was a car like that in the Cars of the 80s release that is also very hard to find, like this, and very expensive. And that's the car that I received in the mail today. So let's take a look at this 1989 Nissan POW. Now, some of you are probably not all that impressed with this car. If you're not into Japanese cars, or, more specifically, classic Japanese cars, then you're probably not going to get too excited about this. But this is a very hard car to find. There are currently none of these listed on eBay. There is one seller who has two of the alternate color, and he's asking $65 a piece, which isn't really a bad price considering they have the bubble and the box. I'm just super excited to have this car. I've been looking for it. It doesn't show up on eBay very often. I think that this is the only one that's been listed in the last year or so. Found it at a great price. It easily would have sold for more, but I'm happy to take it at the price I got it. It was not sealed. However, it did come with the bubble and the base. So, let's see here. It's got a nice looking detailed grille with transparent lensed headlight inserts, painted indicators, although they are way offset, as you can see. A lot of people would compare this brand to Tomica Limited Vintage. I personally would not. I don't think that they're on the same level. I don't think that they're all that similar, honestly. Really, to me, the only similarity is that they have sprung suspension. Other than that, I think they're quite a bit different. TLV would never put something like this out with turning signals that are that far off. But the level of detail is really nice on this car. The wheels here, I'm assuming these are hubcaps. They look great. You can see a little bit of a paint issue there on the driver's side door. That's a real common problem with Konami cars. It's also not all that uncommon with Kyosho, and I've even seen it with Tomica Limited Vintage. Anything made in China has the potential to do that. So even your Auto Worlds and green lights down the road might show stuff like this. You have to remember these cars have been out for about 15 years now. So, but it's a cool looking car. The lines, you can see you've got these horizontal lines that run the length of the car, and then on the hatch in the back you've got some vertical lines. Almost kind of resembles a Volkswagen Thing. Just a very different looking car. I don't know that much about the car, but I'm assuming this is a retractable soft top. And then on the back you've got the hinges, nice and detailed. Very clear glass. It's one thing that Konami does really well, is the windows, and they do a nice job detailing the interior of their cars. So even with the flaws that this car has, I'm still very happy to get it into my collection because it's still going to be a very nice display piece, and it's almost impossible to find. Almost a unicorn car. And as I look at my collection here and notice the ones that have paint issues, almost all the ones that have paint issues are the cars of the 80s. Like here you can see the Miata has some issues with the top. This Celica, it's not terrible, but you can see a little bit of where it's starting to bubble. The white Celica might be the only one where I can't notice anything. The Prelude, definitely not terrible, but definitely has some noticeable spots. And I just noticed some stuff on the Toyota here. So it's unfortunate. Now, the cars that are not part of the cars of the 80 series, most of them are pretty good for the most part, but I'm sure that I have some, like the Toyota Corona, that do have some bubbling issues. So I don't know. What the issue with these cars, collecting these cars, is that they go for about $25 per car. And when you're going to pay that price for a 1/64 scale diecast car, you're almost just going to go with the Tomica Limited Vintage. Because the detail and quality is significantly better on TLV. So, now it's not to take anything away from Konami, because these are very nice cars with very nice detail. But they're definitely not Tomica Limited Vintage quality. I really dig this Toyota Celica. I love the greenhouse on that car, and I like the wheels a lot. And then the first gen Celica, also a great looking car. This is a popular one too. Sometimes people try to get big money on this. Probably realistically a $20 to $25 car. You might be able to find it for less. The alternate color on this was like a baby blue color. This is a really nice metallic burgundy, and the paint on this one is perfect. This one has lens headlights and tail lights. Some of them only have lens headlights or lens tail lights, like for example the Nissan POW. It's got the lens headlights with the painted tail lights, and that's okay. I just think it's really cool. I don't know of any other Nissan POWs in 1/64, especially of a premium detailed finish. I'm sure Tomica has done this car somewhere in their line, but it's probably a more basic, less detailed car. Let's see. I should have done a live video so that I could take requests, because I'm not going to show all these individually. But here's the Toyota Starlet. I love this car. This is a collection keeper. This car will never leave. And there aren't too many of these where I feel like, they're collection keepers, but the Toyota Starlet certainly is. I am attached. I'm as attached to this car as I am any other diecast car that I have. It's hard to explain. And this thing just doesn't get enough love. Holy cow. That is a very nice looking car. I don't know the last time I took this out to show it in a video. But in my opinion, this is the best Toyota 2000 GT in 1/64 scale. I know a lot of you out there would argue that it's Kyosho. And I've had the Kyosho, I've had a couple of them. I personally like this tooling better. I think it has a better stance. I think the proportions on it are a little bit better. And I love the color. That's just a great color. All that metal flake. Corolla with green light wheels and tires. Not, this is definitely not Konami's best work. Not their worst, but it's not their best. But cars like the 510, you know, this is a great casting. One of the nicer 1:64 scale 510s that are out there. It could stand to sit a little bit lower, but cool car nonetheless. The RX-7's a great looking car too. This was available in green, red, and yellow. The stance on this one's probably a little bit high. Could probably stand to be a little bit lower, but overall, this is a very nice car. Great detail. Nice looking wheels. Like I said, I want to get the Kyosho example of this, but it's about a $40 car. But I would like to have that to go with the Konami. And then this one. This is another one that I really like that I don't pull out to look at very often. This is the Toyota Soarer. It's another one that Kyosho did that I would like to get the Kyosho, but it's also a $40 to $50 car. But the Kyosho, I'm sure, is much cleaner. Like you can see here the taillights, how they wrap around the side. They kind of angled down. That just doesn't look right to me. But the wheels look good. The interior looks great. The body style looks real nice in my opinion. I like the molded mud flaps. It's a nice look. Toyota did a lot of that in the 1980s. So overall, a cool looking car in my opinion. And let's see, a couple more. I like the RX-5 Cosmo quite a bit. This was also available in a metallic champagne color. That is also a very nice looking color. But I think for me, I do prefer the red. In most cases, I wouldn't prefer red, but in this case, I definitely do prefer the red. And this is a 1975. Not sure if this car was ever commercially available in the United States. I'd have to double check. In fact, I don't know if any of these were. The Miata, the 85 Celica. This was available in the US, I think, but I think it was a Datsun. It was like a B210 or something like that. It wasn't released as a Nissan Violet. I don't believe the Corona was. The 89 Celica certainly was. The Nissan 240Z certainly was. The Honda Prelude was. The Toyota Soarer was available later on as the Lexus SC400, but that was only for like a 2 or 3 year period of time. The RX-7 was. The 510 was. The Corolla, I believe, was. The Celicas both were, but less than half of these, there's 25 cars here, and I'd say less than half were commercially available in the US. Yeah, that's just a really cool car. So this car and the Nissan Laurel and the Toyota Crown, these are the three largest Konami castings. Compare them, for example, to the first generation Celica. It's quite a bit smaller. Even the larger 1985 Celica is smaller. A little wider, but a little smaller. So that Toyota Crown is bitchin' looking ride, though. I would drive one of these. I would take that as my daily driver. Any one of the three of these. Honestly, I'd probably take any one of these cars. I shouldn't say that. I would not drive a Miata. That's probably the only one. Maybe the Fronte. I don't think I would really want to drive this. It might be worth taking a look at, though. This is a really cool looking little die-cast car. There's an insane amount of detail for how small it is. I think the wheels look great. Tomica Limited Vintage did a couple different body styles. Different than this, so once I get those we can do a comparison. But cool little car. I dig it. Don't think I would drive it though as a daily driver. I would definitely drive a Nissan POW or an RX-7 or a 510 or a Corolla. You know, most of these I would drive as daily drivers. Here's the Toyota Republica. I'd rock one of these to and from work all day, as long as it had air conditioning. But yeah, so there you go. Half-hour Konami diecast. Honestly, if you guys want my honest opinion, the only way I would buy one of these if I were you is if it's a casting that you really, really want. If it's a car that you want a nice premium detailed example of that no other brand does. And again, the reason that I say that is because if you're going to spend $25 on a 1:64 scale diecast car, it's going to be better spent with a brand like this, where the quality is going to be much better, the details better. So that would be my recommendation. But there are a lot of these cars that Tomica Limited Vintage doesn't do. In fact, I don't think TLV does any of these, except for the 510. I think that's the only car that Tomica Limited Vintage, and the Prelude. So there are two cars that cross over. TLV does not do a 240Z. They don't do these Celicas. They don't do that Laurel. They don't do the Crown. They might do a Republica. But yeah, if you're going to spend $25, spend it on Tomica Limited Vintage. But you know what? These are still cool cars. you know, if you just want to collect a bunch of awesome stuff, then certainly buy yourself some Konami. All right. Well, you guys have a good Tuesday. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the diecast. I will holler at you all at the next video. I do have one other car that's coming from Japan. I can't wait to get it. I can't wait to show it to you guys. So hopefully later this week I'll have it. But until then, you guys take care, and I'll holler at the next video.